Welcome, guys. This is group coaching number one. Like I said before, some of these group coachings will be predicated upon content, and some of these group coachings will just be us sharing and what's coming up. I usually feel into where we are as a collective when we're doing this work. But this is okay. So let's start with core values. For me, this is foundational. Some of you have probably done this work in the past before. Hands up if somebody's uncovered and worked with their values before. Let's just get a show of hands. Yep. Quite a few, 50%-ish. All right, cool, awesome. So for me, this is a really deep body of work. Some of us have had conversations about this in our one-on-ones already. As you know, this is fundamental for me personally. The way I describe it, it is the pillars of the temple, and I'll get to that in just a sec. So values help you organize how you connect with people, right? How you connect with the work that you do, how you connect with life itself. It's helped me make decisions, helped me resolve and understand conflict points, helps me realize who I make friends with and how and why. Ultimately, the core values that you have actually, this whole thing's about purpose when you're talking to me. So the values actually help you dictate the value that you bring to the world. It helps you uncover. So this is called discover your values, but some part of me being like a woo-woo spiritual kind of person is very much like you actually uncover your values, right? Your values are always emanating in your day-to-day life. They've always been there. They've always been present. And we'll talk more about that. But these are fundamental to having the conversation around fulfillment and purpose, right? Because the value that you bring, if you can bring that to the world, those are your values, then you're living in alignment to your purpose. Sound good so far? Yeah. Useful. Okay, cool. Awesome. Alrighty. So like I said, like I'm going to say, you are the temple, your body is a temple. And your values are the pillars of the temple, right? So the metaphor that I like to use is actually each of your values, your core values. So let's say you got 3 or 4 core values or 5. By today's exercise, we'll have 3. The pillars of the temple that is you, that life energy, your life's energy, the energy of your life flows through. The pillars of this temple are your values. And the beauty of it is that you actually get to somehow like choose your values in some way. But like I said, it's this process of uncovering. They've always been present. But it's almost like you now know who you're praying to in the temple, right? You also know like who the deities of your temple are. What is it that are the foundations upon which everything you do is built upon, and what keeps this house standing? One of the titans in the personal development space is this gentleman here, Dr. John Demartini. I've had the blessing of interviewing him, I think 2 or 3 times now on the Inspired Evolution podcast, and we've dove deep into his own personal story and also the body of work that he does on values. And he's been doing this for 40 plus years, right? And he is a polymath to the degree of a polymath. Like, it's intense listening to him. It's full on. He knows everything about everything, sometimes it feels. But fundamentally, his core piece of work always comes back to values. And for me, that's really like, it's a really telling tell, because it's like, if someone that is so invested in so many parts of personal development keeps bringing back organizations to connecting them to their values, keeps bringing people back to connecting them to their values, then really this is at the heart of so much transformation, so much alignment. I think that's probably the key piece, right? For me, the ABCs of living your purpose is align, right? And then believe, and then C is go and create, right? So this is the key piece in the A, which is aligning. So finding out your values. As John puts it, he says, knowing your unique hierarchy of values, not just your values, but your hierarchy of values, is the most important place to start if you intend to expand to the next level of your empowerment. Whether you wish to grow your finances, leadership, influence, or your business, whether your intention is to transform your relationship, health, or any area of your life, it all starts with understanding what are your highest values. So I've given you a little bit on why, but I'll tell you a little bit about my own story and why values are important. Is everybody still awake, or have I put you to sleep already? Is this too dry? No, we're good. We're doing all right. All right, cool. It's not going to go for too long, so you're doing great. So why values are important. There is so, like, I've given you a bit of an idea already, but I think the most impactful way that I can share this with you is actually bringing it back to my own story. So some of you have already heard this, and some of you have researched me already through the Inspired Evolution podcast. You would have heard this story. I struggled with 6 years of depression. This was about 9 years ago now, 8 years ago now, 8 years ago now. Yeah. So 14 years ago it started. And I don't really want to cut a long story short, but I do also want to honor your time here. So basically, I grew up in an Indian family in a Western culture. Yeah. Mind you, now I've got amazing language to language the whole process that I went through at the time. When I went through it, it was purely just depression, uncertainty. I had no idea what was going on for me. And now I can actually articulate it through my values in terms of why I was depressed. So, 6 years of depression. Basically, one of the biggest challenges I had was I was navigating life, always putting my best foot forward. Yeah. And if you look at kind of hip hop, which is what I grew up with, I was fronting all the time. I was literally fronting all the time. Yeah. So it showed up in the big things, it showed up in the little things. The moment where I realized that something was terribly, terribly, terribly wrong, and I landed in a psychologist's chair sitting opposite me. You can imagine what it must have meant for, at 24 years old, you're pretty fucking invincible. And for me to be sitting opposite a psychologist at 24 with my whole world come crashing down around me, yeah, it was quite a big deal. And at that moment, I'd been kicked out of university. And prior to that, when I graduated high school, I was like, I won the awards for science, for maths. I was a really good student, touch wood, grew up as a good Indian boy in a good Indian family, basically. And when I went to university, it was this self-directed environment. And what I was up to was I was working 3 jobs. I actually already had a job as an urban planner before I even got my structural engineering degree at the time. And I was just saving loads and loads of money and traveling the world. Yeah. And I was doing great at it for a young 22-year-old. Like my tally at the moment, I think is 56 countries that I've been to, and traveling is just, it's everything to me, right? So I was just literally saving my money, traveling, working really hard, traveling, but not going to university at all. And then I got to university and they said, into university, and I wasn't going to exams, I wasn't going anything. And then they turned around and said, actually, you need to leave. And this whole time, there was no one that I had communicated to that, hey, like, I'm not attending my classes, I'm not attending my exams. I'd just been fronting that, hey, like, I'm going to get my degree in a couple of years. Like, it's all happening, because no one can really see whether you're studying or not at university. So it was this real dark place where I couldn't really express my truth. Now, that was like the big thing that collapsed around me when it was like university was like, dude, you're getting kicked out. And I didn't know how to communicate that to anybody, because I was like, I hadn't been communicating to anybody at that point that I was in this desperate place. But it showed up in all the little things as well, actually. If you called me up and I was meant to be at your place for dinner and you were like, hey, where are you? I was like, oh, I'm just 5 minutes away. And yet I might be an hour away. There would be times where I wouldn't even show up, but I'd pick up the phone and be like, oh, I'm 5 minutes away. Right. And it's this really weird thing. Like, I look back now and it's like, dude, that makes no sense, right? But obviously I've been on a journey since then. But I remember sitting in the psychologist chair and her turning around to me and going, it's honesty. Your biggest challenge, the reason you've been in this space, is you're not honest. And I remember listening to her, and it's almost like the minute she said that, it was like the thread of the carpet that was underneath me. She just pulled on it, and the fucking carpet just unraveled and the floor fell out underneath me, because it was like I'd spent like 15 minutes explaining my situation to this lady, and within 15 minutes she's diagnosed it. She was just like, you just need to embrace honesty. And that was huge for me at the time, because in a culture, and again, I love the Indian culture, right? But in a culture where there's so much population, there's so much competition, there's so much corruption, it's a really intense culture, right? This idea of putting your best foot forward is very present. It's what I grew up with, right? So my mum was always 5 minutes away, but I could hear that she hadn't even jumped in the shower yet. Like there was all this, it was always what I grew up with. So I grew up with Indian values, Eastern values in a Western culture, right? And there was this discrepancy, right? Now, in Australia, you're allowed to be late. It's totally cool to be late. Just let me know that you're going to be late and it's fine, right? So now if I'm running late somewhere, if I'm going to be like 20 minutes late, I let them know I'm going to be running 30 minutes late, and I have no trepidations about it anymore, because I've gone on this journey, right? This whole healing journey around this thing. And people don't care. It's like, oh, actually, he said he was going to be 30 minutes late. He's here 20 minutes late. All good. Actually, you've done them a solid. But at the time, when I was on the phone to you, it was just like me trying to placate you, put the best foot that I had forward, and I was just basically dishonest. And now I look back and it goes, there are different values from the culture that I was raised in to the culture that I was living in. This disconnection between values obviously hampered how I could show up, how I could actually express myself. And you hear me say this quite a bit. For me, my truth is the opposite of expression is depression. And that was the root cause of my depression, right? Because I couldn't express myself. So learning your values and who you are and how you want to show up and how you are expressing yourself actually is vital for your mental health and how you show up in the world, right? So that was a little bit of a journey for me. She made me go through a process where basically I made a commitment to honesty, and safe to say that completely revolutionized my life, right? Completely changed my life. So she made me value something that I did value, but I couldn't execute on it, and she held me accountable to it. So my challenge with honesty actually had me enforced an inability to connect with people, actually, because I couldn't connect with you authentically, right? And some of you have had your one-on-one coaching calls with me now. Like, what you get from me, touchwood, is complete transparency, even around the coaching program, even around coaching, even about how I show up. It's like completely transparent, completely honest. There's an authenticity there, touchwood, I hope that you feel, because of my ability to basically be an open book. And this came from my Life Speakers Challenge, right? So often our voids do spell out what our values are, and we'll get to that a little bit. So I think for me, this piece of work is really important because it really helps you align to who you are, and it helps you express who you truly, truly are. And if there's things that you're not expressing and you can't navigate, it can help you find your way back home to who you are and how you want to express yourself in the world. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. Yep. Awesome. So a little bit about why values are important. Exactly what I just said. They help you discover what is truly important to you, right? So it brings the power back into your hands. I adopted honesty and I started walking a whole new way with life. And it wasn't overnight, mind you, right? It took time, it took energy to really come home to trying to be an honest person. And right now, the benefits of all of that is what you get to see in front of you. Like, I get to share myself authentically, honestly, helping, share with you my transformation in the attempt, hoping that it will support you in your transformation as well, right? So it helps you really come home to what you are. So one of the things to note is that our values arise through our conscious and unconscious desires, right? And some people call our desires our voids, right? So it's the thing that we're potentially most missing, right? So for me, honesty was a real challenge. I couldn't connect with people properly. So we'll go through my values shortly and explain like how that makes sense. But my highest value is connection, right? So when you meet Amrit, it's like, boom, connection is what I do. It's who I am. It's everything about me. And that's what your values should be like. Once you're clear on them, it's like, these are the pillars of your temple. These words completely embody what you're about, right? These are your core values. And what is most missing in your life, right, actually becomes what you see the most value in. It's what's most important to you because it's coming potentially from a place of lack. But if you can learn to go on that healing journey, these are the things that matter most to you. So I was disconnected from people. I didn't know how to connect with them authentically. So I just told them what I thought they wanted to hear so they would connect with me, right? So I was fronting. But what I was looking for was connection. Yeah. So there was this massive void there. But the healing of all of that was actually, all I wanted to do was connect. You don't have to front to connect. Just be you and connect, right? Does that make sense in terms of the void piece? Yeah. Cool. Awesome sauce. And why are they important? I'm going to keep harping on about this. It's the value you bring to the world. Your values are the value you bring to the world. So for me, it's connection, contribution, celebration. Hopefully that's what you get out of me, right? For me, it's the reason the universe put us here, right? This expression where we are an expression of the universe, we're created and we're creating. We are put here to express ourselves fully. What are those expressions? What are the pillars of your temple? What is it that is your expression? It is your values, right? Learning to live in alignment with them, dude, that's where it all begins. So what are values? Yeah, great question. Some of you have probably seen words like this and this like this before. Yes, correct? Cool. So this is just a list that I extrapolated from just some Leadership Institute program. This list is by no means exhaustive. I think there's about 50 here, but it gives you an idea of like what certain values could be, like service, stability, recognition, curiosity, creativity, achievement, authenticity, right? So this is a list of values, and you can have more than three values, right? You can totally have more than three values. I totally have more than three values, but knowing your three core values is really powerful. Today, when we go through what we go through, you should have a complete system for how to find your top three values. My highest values: connection, contribution, celebration. So hopefully when you're looking at that face, you're not thinking too much about it. But you can also simultaneously connect that, oh, yep, that looks like that guy. So you see my name, Amrit, but you also see connection, you also see contribution, you also see celebration. And hopefully that rings true for what you're getting from me, right? Now, this has been a process of me uncovering this work over, the first time I did this, I think it was 2016 when I first started looking at my values, right? But it took about 2 years for me to really anchor into like, fuck yeah, these are the root core values of mine, right? But the first time I did the exercise, it probably took at most an hour to get clear on what my values are. And I'll run you through that exercise today. But then there's a bit of a dance and a romance that you go on the journey with your values as well, which I'll introduce to you today as well. Now, let's have a quick chat about another little story of mine. Storytelling time. I feel like we're around the fireside now. So again, some of you know the inspired evolution, right? It's birthed out of basically me being out of alignment with my career. Yeah. So the avatar, the people that I serve with the inspired evolution are people that are in a space, potentially the corporate 9 to 5. I was working 6 to 6. So I created a movement for me to be displaced out of that into living life on my own terms. So the people that the inspired evolution helps is you can feel the rat race. You can feel that life is not in alignment to your own expression. You're not living life on your own terms, basically. And it's here to help you live the life you love. Yeah. So for me, that was my biggest challenge. Was I was a construction manager, right? And working as a structural engineer. And I just a question to you all, where, like, as a construction manager, do you think I was getting a lot of connection in that day-to-day working as an engineer? Yeah. Was there a sense of contribution? Yeah, sort of. Yeah, so some of it, sort of, right? So I was building high-rise towers for people and for families to have homes in, right? So that was really that was the piece that was kind of keeping me there. Was there a sense of celebration in what I was doing? No, not for me. There really wasn't, right? So there was no connection. There was no celebration. There was a sense of contribution. And the moment where I kind of, again, the floor fell out from underneath me is when I was working and I was managing the build of 3 towers. 3 towers here in the city in Melbourne. Each of them was about 40 stories. And once we'd finished them, I was lingering on the job and I was just having a check. And some of the stuff that I uncovered really didn't help me. We sold 95% of the apartments, but only 60% of them were using water. So I was like, wait, why the water usage at about 50 to 60% for each of the towers? Why are 35% of the apartments, 35 to 40% of the apartments empty? And I spoke to the developer about this and he said, oh, just like you buy a second phone sometimes and you don't use it. And this is my iPhone that I got for Clubhouse and I don't use it. Basically, he said, look, there are people that just invest in properties and just wait for the capital gains. They don't even need to rent them out and they just invested in a property. And I was looking at myself at the time and I was like, in the market for my first home. And I was like, wow, I'm contributing to this problem of, people in my generation not being able to buy homes. And I'm not actually building homes. I'm just building a product for people to invest in to get, and like the little piece of contribution that I had going on for me just dissipated. Right? Now, at the time, I wasn't clear on my values. Yeah, I wasn't. But some part of me was like, I can't do this anymore. I couldn't articulate why I couldn't do this anymore. Right now, in this conversation, it's really clear. It's like, well, the only thing you had going for you was contribution and that dissipated. So obviously, you had to shift. Yeah. It becomes really clear in this conversation. Had I known this body of work, I probably wouldn't have even gone into that career for the outset. Right? So fast forward a little bit. What did I start to do? I started podcasting. Again, not really being super clear on my values, but I started podcasting. Connection. Do I get connection in podcasting? Question, everybody. Do I get to connect to people all over the world? Thought leaders, amazing people having amazing conversations about ridiculous stuff, about transformation stuff? Absolutely, right? Like I look at my network now and it's like, who the shit am I? This is ridiculous. Touch wood, right? Contribution, right? There are 200,000 people tuning into a podcast right now. And hopefully me being inspired to evolve and sharing content with them is inspiring them to evolve as well, right? So is there a contribution in there? Yes, no, maybe, right? And ultimately, do I get to help them celebrate life because they're transforming into an inspired evolution, right? Hopefully, that's the intention. Yes, right? So connection, contribution, celebration in podcasting, absolutely. The other thing that I do as a coach, as you can see me here, right? So the thing that I love doing is connecting people and ideas, connecting people to ideas, ideas to ideas, right? That's what I do, right? So connecting people to ideas that can empower their lives. That's what I'm doing in coaching. As a group coaching program, you guys are connecting to each other, right? Ultimately, I'm contributing to your lives. Hopefully, there's a service element here that really fuels my passion, yeah? And you guys get to leave hopefully celebrating life that little bit harder, fuller, more completely. Yeah. Again, speaking from stage, the same thing. The other thing that I do is I'm a speaker, connecting to an audience, contributing to them, helping them celebrate life. So you can see my life is now designed around my values, my pillars of who I am, and I get to show up. Now, all well and good, Amrit, but the thing that I really want to articulate to you in around this is I will show up to a group coaching call tired. Yeah, like I will show up to a one-on-one coaching call tired, right? I may be exhausted from all the things that I'm doing, but when I show up to my call through the exercise of going through the call, because I'm getting my values met, I'm getting connection, I'm getting contribution, we're leaving with some celebration. I leave energized. So I actually have work and I'm not special. This is just values. I get to leave, my work energizes me. Like, imagine that as a perspective shift, going from something that is completely taxing and draining to something that is actually like enabling you to be even more energized about who you are and how you're living life. Are you following? Making sense? Yeah, I see lots of nodding heads. Yeah, cool, awesome. This is why values are super important to me. So, highest values. Why highest values and why not just all our values? Highest values to help you discover what is most important to you, right? So another quick little story here. So me and my wife, we were interacting with this gentleman one time, and this gentleman was just an asshole. There's no other way of putting this, right? This particular gentleman was just an asshole. And we're having this conversation, rah, 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 rah. And afterwards, we left the conversation. Me and my wife left, and she was like, why didn't you say something to him about like how big a dick he was being? And I was just like, you know what? I'm just never going to see that person again. It's no skin off my nose. He can be whoever he wants to be. He's probably going to hit a wall or a speed bump somewhere in his life. Doesn't need to be me. I'm cool. And she's just like, no, you need to let that person know that they're not behaving properly. And for a while, I sort of sat back and I was like, what is going on here? Like, she's right that I should have said something, but I didn't feel compelled to, like, no part of me felt compelled to say anything. And so I stood back for a second. I said, what are my values? I was like, all right, my values are connection, contribution, celebration. I was never going to say anything because I was going to jeopardize my value of connection, right? And I took a look at her values. And I was like, what are your values? And I really, I know her through and through. And she's like, I know her highest value is integrity, right? And so she was operating from a place of integrity and I'm operating from a place of connection. So she's like, you need to let that person know, full integrity. And I'm like, I'm a connector. So whether, they're not going to be able to connect very well in the future, I don't need to be the one that disrupts that pattern of programming or whatever. It doesn't faze me. Like, there's people out there that exist like that. But she's absolutely right. And ergo, I was actually right in the way that I behaved as well in accordance to my values. So do you see how like there's conflict resolutions, there's difference of perspectives, and you start to understand each other a little bit better. You start to understand where people are coming from based on what their values are, and potentially going, oh, I understand why that person's saying that to me. They're not actually having a crack at me. They're just standing up for the values that they believe in, right? And I'm just operating from my values. So things like conflict resolution, knowing that we're going to go through this exercise, all right, so that's conflict. Connecting to people. In this space, right, Mind Valley has a value of unity, right? So connection, for me, connection, love, and unity are all basically the same thing. That's just my perspective on it. But I know that many of you in this space either have connection as your value or unity as one of your values or love as one of your values. I know it exists, right? That's what's actually brought us together, right? It's actually what's brought us together. So I know that that exists in the space. It's what connects people. That's why Mindvalley advertises unity, transformation, envisioning. Those three pillars of their business are actually Vision's three core fundamental values as well, right? And this is just a little bit about if you're going to create a conscious business, good luck trying to create it without trying to align it to your own three key values, right? Helps me with my decision making, right? So when something comes my way, like the Mindvalley coaching program, they put out the call. They're like, "Hey, this week we're starting a coaching program. We need coaches. Who's in?" And I was like, "Okay." They're like, "You're just like pool of people that we want to sort of be these coaches. Who wants to do it?" And I was like, "Well, okay, mind coaching. Am I going to get to connect? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to get to contribute. Yes, certainly. And celebration. Yeah, sounds like fun. We're going to create a whole new coaching program. Let's do this." It took me less than 20 seconds to make a decision just by running through my values and seeing if something was for me, right? But someone could have sat there and been like, massive time commitment, or how much it paid. I didn't even ask how much it paid. I didn't care, right? Why? Because it was in complete alignment to my values. It took me less than 20 seconds to make a life decision, right? That has landed me here, that's supporting all of you on your journey, Touchwood, right? Again, decision making. Values help you determine what your motivation is. I don't actually believe in motivation, right? So it's your inspiration, what inspires you, right? So when I look at people, like Vision's always been an inspiration of mine, right? And it's like, what about that dude inspires me? It's like, he's got the value of unity. He's connecting, right? He's connecting people together. You can see what inspires you by aligning your values to that. You can see what you bond with your friends over. My friends are all contribution oriented. All my friends are givers. Very few of us are takers. They're just givers and givers and givers and givers, which, is a whole body of work that we're all working on, learn to receive better. But all my friends are givers, right? So I bond with people that love contribution, are service oriented. And ultimately, again, it's the value you bring to the world. So the way Dr. John Demartini says, I love the way he articulated this in the podcast. He said, your purpose in life, your purpose will reflect your highest values. Yeah? But your purpose is reflected by your highest values. So if you don't know what your purpose is, find your values and your purpose will emerge through that. Does that make sense? Yes? Yeah, nodding heads? Cool. All right. Promise we're getting into the yummy part soon. So quick little frequently asked question that I get is, do your values change over time? Yes, your values do change over time. Absolutely. Your core values really change, right? So as many of you know, my wife's pregnant and so got a baby on the way, and family is a value that's literally just climbing. And I can just feel it. It's like this thing about family is really emerging in my field right now. It's like, whoa, family is really coming up as a value. It's always been important to me, but right now it's like the hierarchy is changing. But my core values, who I truly am, connection, contributes, celebration is in everything. Connection also means family. It's connecting to my family, right? So your core values don't really change, right? The way I'd articulated it when I wrote it down here for you is your ultimate or relatively unchanging core values dictate your infinite journey the most. So the ones that are chorus to you are directly related to your infinite journey, right? And then the transient values, right, dictate your transient destinies, like kind of like the things that are present for now. It's almost the intentions, right? So the short-term intentions that you set based on the values that are important to you, what you're valuing in the moment, right? So here, one of my intentions is simplicity. So I'm valuing simplicity. I'm trying to simplify everything. But my core values remain unchanged: connection, contribution, celebration. And so through today's exercise, we're going to come home to your core values. Any questions about any of that before we start digging into how we do this? Nah, all good? Yeah, solid? Brilliant. Okay, now that you're all inspired, hopefully, let's dig into how we actually do this. So you saw this before. We've got a list of values, right? Now this is I'm a Virgo, right? So I'm very like OCD. So there's a list of values for you here. So feel free to copy that down. You can run this with me now if you want to. You can do it a little bit later. It's slideevolution.com/recommends/values. And here what you're going to find is a Google Doc with, I think there's about 250 values listed. It is going to be in view only mode, so you need to copy and paste it into a different file. Yeah. I used to not have it in view only mode, and then everybody was always doing their exercise in the one doc, and then everybody ended up with the same value. It just doesn't work. So copy and paste it into another file. Sorry, I'm going to let Brittany back in. Let me know if you guys have the file, you've got the link, and it's working for you. I'll take a minute.
Amrit, I just came back in. What did you just say? I missed what you said.
I basically just going through now how to find your values. Yeah. So I said, take this link that's a screen. So inspiredevolution.com/recommends/values. And I'm going to help you find values. Yeah. So what I said was bust that link in on another tab if you've got a tab, if you've got the access to another tab, or pull it open on your phone. Ideally, be another tab. You'd copy all the values that are on that Google Doc sheet into a Word doc or something, or another Google sheet, wherever you want to work, and paste it in. And then I'll step you through how to do this exercise. Is that clear to me?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Sweet. Awesome. And again, just reminding you guys, I have no monopoly on values. You can totally, some of my values resonate with you. Absolutely. They're probably resonating with you because they are your values. And again, you know, what you see in others, you also see only because it's afforded to you from your perspective in the world, right? So, you know, when I see JD, I see enthusiasm, but potentially some of you see consideration, you know, and I'm not the most considerate person sometimes, you know, I'm caring, but my wife's the more considerate one out of the two of us, but I see enthusiasm. Why? It's still just JD, right? But my lens that I see the world as is a particular lens. So what you see in others is also what is available to you. Denise, is the page not working for you? Oh, anybody else the page not working for?
I'm getting no results.
I just sent you the link so you can check in.
It's working for me. I had a typo the first time and thought it wasn't, and then I went back and noticed that.
Is it inspired evolution? It's a long word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sending you the link right now.
Okay.
Thanks, Jake.
I accidentally only sent it to Nish.
In the chat group, if you just
yeah, I'm just on a different computer. Okay.
There you go. That one works.
All right.
Cool. Am I good to proceed? Will you keep on top of it with us? Yeah. All right. Awesome. So, also, this is by no means an exhaustive list. There's 250 words, which is a lot. And this has come from just doing this exercise with tons and tons of people and everybody going, oh, this word's missing, this word's missing. Please add it in. Right? So you can totally add your own words. This is the view only version. But if you want to add words in for your own, at your own end, by all means, you're entitled to that. So you've got your list of values. It looks like this. Yeah. Everybody's got this list now. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. This looks familiar. This is just the top third of the first page, right? So this is me just doing like a sample. This is by no means me going through the whole list, but I'll show you how to do it using this, right? So the first part is to get the list of values. The second part is what I call the first pass selection. So pardon just the technical terms, right? I'm an engineer, so you kind of just put up with that for a little bit. So you just go through a first pass and select, right? So the way I've selected it is I've just made the ones that matter to me bold, yeah? So abundance mattered, acceptance mattered, accomplishment mattered, accountability, yeah, accuracy, yeah, achievement, yep, adaptability, okay, alertness, okay, altruism, yep, ambition, yep, amusement, yep, assertiveness, attentive, awareness, yep, that definitely spoke to me. So anything that jumps out to you, absolutely anything that jumps out to you, right? And one of the things people say is, dude, so many of the words jump out to me, 40 to 60 to 70 words, yeah, dude, go for it. Absolutely. Do not hold back, right? Be discerning, go with what feels right, right? But highlight the words that matter to you. Yeah. Now this may take a minute. Yes, this may take longer than you've got in this call, but I'll give you a few minutes here just to do it, to sort of feel into the exercise. And you may want to come back and highlight more later.
Amrit,
yep.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
So one thing that I think it really works, really worked with me, and I really recommend everyone do it for two reasons: because it works and it's faster. It's like work with your intuition. I mean, and be very aware of your initial reaction the moment you read the word. So as soon as you read it, you're gonna know if it is. and that's gonna allow you to go faster, find your value faster, and also like you don't allow the mind to just get in. It's like, oh, but I have this business that does this, so maybe this should be my value, or like my partner, like whatever, So just try to work with your intuition, and that really allows to find it.
That's beautiful, brother. Great advice. Thank you. Cool. So does that part of it make sense to everybody? I know by no means have you gone through 250 values and started bolding all of them, especially if you've got a laptop and you've got to kind of use the trackpad. I've got a mouse. I swear by mouses. But anyway, you get the idea, right? Step 2 was to go through and bold everything that matters to you, right? Is anybody close to the end and do you want me to just pump the brakes for a sec so you can get through to the end of it? Or do you want me to, because this is going to be a bit of there's more to it than this, yeah? So let me get through the process with you. Otherwise, this call will go way longer than an hour, right? So go through and bold everything. Step 3, once you've bolded everything that matters to you, I'd like you to collate the like terms, yeah? And how do you collate the like terms? I just simply highlight them in a certain color. So you'll see for me that charity, acceptance, altruism, connection all kind of meant the same thing to me. Community, compassion. To me, they all kind of mean the same thing. A better example potentially is accomplishment, achievement, ambition, competence, drive, determination, dedication. These all meant the same-ish sort of thing to me. They're in the same family of words for me, right? And I'm saying very consciously for me, because this is a completely subjective exercise. Do not think that just because these words like mean something to the collective as a group, that they mean something collectively to you. So what does that really mean? For me, what celebration means to me is actually health, right? From the outside looking in, I know most people are like, what? How does celebration mean health? But for me, celebration legitimately means health, because you've got to be healthy. You've got to be vitality to be able to express yourself fully, to embrace life in a healthiest, most vibrant way that you can. That only happens when you're celebrating, right? That's what health is there for, so you can celebrate life. Now, that's my narrative. That's my story, right? Touch wood. So that's what celebration means to me. Now, if I started circling celebration and health together, you guys would be like, what? Doesn't celebration mean more like joy or something, So just tuning into that. So what it means for you is there's no right or wrong, just completely subjective, yeah? But clumping them in together. And there's going to be ones that can't be clumped in together. The most easiest example is like if you've got abundance, wealth, and prosperity, these are 3 that are pretty universal, right? That people can clump in together. But also on that note, for some people, abundance doesn't mean wealth and prosperity. Abundance is way bigger than that. For some people, abundance is actually health and vitality, right? So it gives you an idea of the subjectiveness of this exercise. Now, most of them are going to find a category together, right? You'll probably start running out of colors soon, so make sure you choose a variety of colors, yeah? Some of them, like just even in this example, like cleanliness didn't have a friend in this 1/3 of the list. I'm sure if I went through it, there was probably a friend to it. Abundance didn't have a friend in this list for me, just in the top 1/3 sample that we did. But I know if I went down to the bottom of the page, I'd have like wealth, prosperity, and that sort of stuff. So it would have collated like terms, but you may have terms that don't have a friend, right? Don't discard those ones. It's not because this pinged more times, this is more valuable, right? It's just, you are just doing this exercise. Even if the ones don't have friends, like, do you know what I mean by friends? Yeah, everybody's getting what I'm saying. If that word doesn't have a collation, doesn't mean that it's not important. That may be one of your core values, right? It's just that it hasn't got another synonym in the values list for you, right? So the first part was to grab the list. Second part was to go through, bold everything, select everything that spoke to you. Again, as JD recommended, if it speaks to you via intuition, jump on it. Third part was to collect them together, right? Now, what you'll start to notice once you've done this is you've actually got maybe 10.
Sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if it's just, it seems like every few minutes you're totally cutting out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything you can do on it. So I hesitate to say anything.
You're good.
But I believe.
All right, I flicked it onto my hotspot. Let me know if it happens again. Yep. Cool.
Okay, thank you.
So now you've got about 10 odd colors that you've selected through the whole process. Yeah. For each color, I'd like you to give it a heading or a title or however you want to, the word that describes the energy of that collection of terms most potently for you is the way I want to describe this. Yeah. So you'll see for me, the purple ones, acceptance, charity, compassion, connection is what altruism means to me. Community is about connection. Compassion is about connection. Charity is about connection. Acceptance is about connection, right? Then I started looking at the red ones: accomplishment, achievement, ambition, drive, determination, dedication. Actually, it's about effectiveness. I really want to be effective at what I do in life. I really want to show up effective, right? So that's actually the word in there that means something to me. Commitment matters, discipline matters, but actually when I think about me, it's like I'm a guy that's devoted, right? Touch wood. So devotion matters to me. Yeah. So you can just capitalize that word, right? Find your own way of making that the heading of that bunch of words. So amusement was a word that literally just didn't have a partner, so it just became its own heading. When I thought about being clear, curiosity, clear, aware, conscious, at the core of all of that for me, you might have picked awareness. For me, it was curiosity, right? Is that making sense? Giving each term a heading. Yeah? Cool. Now from there, you're pretty close to home actually. You've got a list of values. So those headings form your list, right? So the ones that I put in capital there are the ones that I've pulled out over here: abundance, amusement, cleanliness, communication, connection, curiosity, devotion, effectiveness. I've got a first pass on my list of values. Yeah. Any questions about how we got there? Is that pretty straightforward? No, super good. Awesome. You've got your first list of values. From here, I'd like you to take step 6, the first step, the first attempt to basically putting them in a hierarchy that matters to you. Yeah. So once you've got them, take a first stab at going, all right, you know what? Maybe this is the most important. Maybe this is next. This is next. Kind of know family really matters to me. So family somewhere near the top. And you start organizing them in terms of a hierarchy. Yeah. Now you're pretty close to having your core values. Like you could literally walk away from this exercise at this point and go, you know what? I've got a bit of an idea in terms of what my core values are. The top 3, the top 2, top 5, however you want to skin it. I advise you to go for 3. I really feel like 3 is a special number when it comes to values. All organizations that are doing awesome things are, like even Mind Valley, unity, envisioning, transformation, 3 core values: the inspired evolution, connection, contribution, celebration. There's something about the magic number 3. 3 is a triangle. I don't know. It works. So I invite you to try and come home to 3. Yeah. So by the end of, if you spend an hour doing this exercise, you should be up to here. Yeah. The next part is where it took me 2 years to get clear on my values and won't take you this long. I was just self-guided on a little trippy hippie journey of my own, right? So here, I invite you to put your values into your phone, right? So put this list of values into your phone, right? In a notes section. If some people are anti-phone, grab your journal, put it in the back page of your journal, right? And I'd like you to live with your core values, to live and breathe and be present to them and just have them in your phone. So that interaction that I had with that, the gentleman that wasn't very pleasing, and I had that conversation with my wife, honesty is one of my values, right? And it was probably like number 3 at the time. And connection was actually beneath it. But because I had the values in my phone and I was like, hey, something happened here. What happened? I didn't say something to this gentleman, and I don't feel like I was ever going to say something. You kind of know in your bones that it wasn't a response that was your response anyway. But my wife really felt, okay, integrity was important to her. Okay, cool. Okay, so that means connection is actually more important to me than honesty. So then I literally take honesty a peg down on the list and put it underneath connection, right? So now I'm living my day to day. I'm living with my values, right? Allowing them to speak to me. Yeah. And then there'll be a friend of mine that we end up with this conflict and we don't end up friends anymore. It's like, shit, what happened there? And I was like, oh, I'm really a giver and he was just a taker. Man, contribution really matters to me. Like I thought it was abundance, but actually it's giving, you know? I'm more contribution oriented. So abundance comes down and service comes up, right? So you've got them in your pocket. Let your life kind of speak to you. When you have these moments of like, oh, I went out last night and had an amazing time. What was that dude's name? Jim. What did I really like about Jim? Man, Jim had great conversation. We really connected. What sparked me about that? I was like, connection. Man, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy when I'm connecting to people. You know, I had a really good chat with Nish. What was it about that? I was like, oh man, we were really curious, we were really present, and we just really got to connect. Okay, this connection thing has really got me firing on all cylinders when it happens. Move it up a notch, right? So you've got this list in your phone. Generally what I do is I put a gap between the top 3 and then I have the rest down to kind of below. And there's a little line there. So you kind of just flick them above or below the line as it goes on. And you'll find as they're living and breathing in your pocket, you'll start collating terms, right? So just to use the example that we've been going with, this wasn't my example when I did it, but devotion may mean effectiveness, which may mean contribution, right? So for me, my values are connection. What, did my net drop out again? Sorry. I don't know what that's, maybe it's my PC. So in and around there, my values are connection, contribution, and celebration. So I can tell you if I was walking around with just the values that I had from the first third of this list, connection also meant curiosity to me, connecting people and ideas, right? Communication is also connection for me in many ways, right? Initially, the first time I did it, I went through the list. I didn't pair communication and connection as the same. They were 2 separate things for me in my head, right? But as I started living with them, it may change. You realize, communication is just a tool for me to connect. So it's actually all about connection for me at the heart of it. I'm devoted. I like effectiveness. What's that really about? I want to live a life of service, devoted, but also like fully living my purpose. And for me, that's contribution. All right, cool. Contribution is my value. I like joy. I like abundance. I like having fun. Health matters to me. All of that for me wraps into celebration, right? So again, it's completely subjective, yeah? But as you come down to this process of refining them further and further, if you let them live and breathe in your pocket and you check in with them regularly when things happen, little milestone activities in your life, and you just check in with your values to the point where you land here. Yeah. And it's literally like Amrit Sandhu, and like literally on my Facebook right now, it's like Amrit Sandhu in brackets, it says connection, contribution, celebration. Yeah. Like that's my name on Facebook. Because that's legitimately like, if you don't know what Amrit Sandhu means, that's what it means. That's the definition right there. Connection, contribution, celebration. It's as simple as that. And as I'm sharing this with you, feel into what that means. Like for anybody that's, let's just get businessy about it for a sec. Anybody that's trying to connect to me and understand what I'm about, or anything that I'm trying to sell to them, or anything that I'm trying to communicate to them, they get what I'm up to. They get who I am. They get what I'm about. It's so easy, right? The other real piece is, as your coach, me being this clear, because some of you are budding coaches, me being this clear on who I am is just giving so much breadth of clarity into everybody that's interfacing with me. They're just super clear. It's like, oh, that's what that guy does. That's what that guy's about. Oh my God, that's exactly what I get when I connect with Amrit, right? It demonstrates that you're clear on what you're about. When I go to make decisions, as I articulated before, when I come into conflict, when I start making friends, when I start thinking about business opportunities, am I getting to connect, contribute, celebrate? Super simple, super straightforward, right? The work's done. Now, just to remind you guys, this exercise is super simple. Yeah, this was something I was meant to pre-frame. Just because it's simple, please, please, please do not think of it as not being impactful. Right? One of the biggest things I've learned from being coached by people like Eckhart Tolle from Vision, if someone's complicating something, they're trying to sell you something. Yeah. All the good stuff, all the pure wisdom, it's simple. Yeah. Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. It's literally be here now. Yeah. It's simple. It's painful, painfully simple, but it's simple. Yeah. And so this values exercise, supremely simple, Simple. It's a game me and my wife play. When someone messes up a word, that becomes the word going forward in our relationship. So we don't actually say go to sleep. We say go to sneep, because one of us was so tired that they said sneep. Anyway, so simple. So it's a really simple exercise. And from there, please execute upon it, because it's really impactful. It's really, really impactful. Yeah. Any questions about that? No? Any questions about engaging with the exercise? Everybody's got access to the list here. Yeah, it totally works. Yep. So many of us had our one-on-one calls, and I said, hey, I'm not prescribing you homework for your one-on-one calls, A, because you got a whole bunch of quests going on in your life, but B, also because after this call, I want you to tuck into this, please. So this is the homework piece that I want you to really connect to. This is personal development 101 for me. And if you've done this before, please go through it again, because potentially there's not that element of having it in your phone and walking your life and breathing with it, right? That was just something that I came up with as a harebrained idea, and it really helped me refine my values over time to the point where I landed here, right? And it's really helpful. It's really, really helpful, especially if you're going to stay in alignment to your purpose. Remember the ABCs of purpose: align, believe, create. If you're going to stay aligned, your values are the pillars of the temple that aligns the energy that flows through the temple. Boom. That's us, guys. Thank you so much for attending Group Coaching 1. Such a pleasure to see everybody's shiny faces. As is customary, might even let JD lead the charge on this one. We begin and end every call with a you. So I'm going to do I have to describe what the U is to some of you? Does everybody know what the U is? Who here knows nobody knows what, okay. JD, what's a U, bro? Can you give us a U?
So that's your middle name, actually. Your Amrit U.
Do you want to give us a U?
So, I'm going to try to do it the same way you do it. Okay. So here it goes. It's like,
pretty much.
Anybody have seen like some of Amrit's like podcasts? Like he does that.
Yeah. So I begin every single podcast with a U, and it just it's pretty insane. Sometimes I'm sitting opposite like people like Marissa Peer, that you guys know her from Mind Valley, and she's like, hypnotherapist to the queen, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm about to U in front of her. So basically, a U is this. It's yeah, and it's just customary. It's just got to be done. So on the count of 3, if everybody can unmute themselves, yeah, and we'll give it our first crack. And just know that this is recorded. So by the last call, we will compare our last U to our first U together, okay? And we'll have a little side-by-side comparison at the end of coaching of how far our transformation journey has really come, all right? 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, we got miles of improvement ahead of us. I'm excited to be on this journey with you all. All right, guys, I'm going to hit stop share. I'm going to bring us all back into here. And like I said, let me see if I can escape out of this, bring you back front and center so that I'm looking at you. So yeah, like I said, some of the calls are going to be like this, where I'm completely just teaching you and it's something fundamental that will help us all on our journey. And there will be calls where it's more connection based, because obviously connection is my highest value, as you know, and we're all just interacting with each other. But this piece is fundamental. It'll help us all stay aligned to the work that's coming up, instead of me having one-on-one calls with each of you on values, because it's something that everybody needs to go through. Just kind of leveraging this group space forum for us to hit the ground running, so that when we go into our one-on-one calls, we can really go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah? Sounds good? Awesome. Thank you all for your blessings, your presence, your time, your energy. So wonderful to connect with you all here again. Always such a treat. And I'll see you all in the Telegram space super soon. Big love.